huge congratulations for this win, guys. Our chances of victory were virtually nil. This is an outstanding performance. You beat all the favourites.
Hello there folks, it is TIJ Gaming and welcome back to the Tour de France 2020 playthrough with Team Ineos. Today it is time for stage number 6 of 21, but as with every single episode, let's take a look back at what happened in stage number 5. If you're new to the channel, remember to subscribe for daily Tour de France 2020 content. Now our team manager was absolutely ecstatic with the last stage. We managed to win it with Dennis, and that was really down to a crash in the peloton which involved Geraint Thomas and a hell of a lot of other riders. Don't really know what happened, but the breakaway of ourselves, Hermans and Benoot managed to get away, and we actually managed to win the stage. It's absolutely excellent to see. We've got some great points with Dennis as well. And young riders, Bernal got the top of the classification there. In team classification on the stage, we were top. So a very good stage for us. But it was highs and lows as Gegenhardt was not classified in the 5th stage because he finished out of the time boundary. Now, in the total standings, which is the one we're most interested in really, Geraint Thomas has fell down 1 place to 6th place. He's 2 minutes and 10 behind Fuchs Lang, who has got the current yellow jersey. Roglic, though, who did currently have the previously had the yellow jersey, has dropped down to place number 3 due to being involved in that crash in the peloton with Geraint Thomas. But luckily both riders were okay, and as you could see earlier on, carried on without too much of a problem. Carapaz dropped back a little bit, but Bernal gained a lot of time in the general classification, which is great to see. He moves up 7 places to 15th. A long time behind purely because of that mistake we made in stage number 2, but hopefully we should be able to claw that back. Now, unfortunately, we did have some good climbing points with Gegenhardt, but because he's not classified now, Kwiatkowski is now our lead man on the climber classification, 8th place. Points classification, Dennis obviously took a lot of points from the the intermediate sprint and the final sprint at the end due to being at the front of the field throughout. So he moves up 42 places to 5th in the points classification. We'll have to have a look at him and Geraint Thomas to make some good points up to potentially get to the front of the points classification. Young riders, Bernal is in 4th. Team classification at the top, and compatibility, Gegenhardt was at the top of that, but as we've said before, he has dropped out the classification altogether. I don't think he can continue now because he wasn't classified, so he might well be out of the whole thing, which is a real shame to see, but we continue nonetheless, and it's time today for stage number 6.
Today is a tiring route, where the closing kilometres should suit the punches, and an opportunity to lead the general classification. I'm counting on you to control breakaways and attacks, because we can blow things apart on the final climb and win the stage. Go! We're aiming for victory! Good race, guys!
Hello, cycling fans everywhere. If today there's no doubt that the winner will have to be a proven climber, it's hard to predict whether a GC favourite or a baroudeur will be victorious at the top of the Mont Aigoual. The teams interested in the general classification might not want to burn calories chasing down the early breakaway.
So an overcast day then it seems. We're leaving Teil now. It's a 191km stage. We haven't really got many plans of a breakaway just yet early on. Now, our objectives are to finish top of the pile with Egan Bernal, but personally, because he's so far behind in the classification now, he's about 16 minutes behind as we saw earlier, our main man is this man, Geraint Thomas, for the stage win. They want him to finish in the top 5 and want Carapaz to finish in the top 10. There's a few guys going already, and I'm not going to join that for now because we've got the sprint, and that's not for a long time yet. In fact,
to be part of the early breakaway. We'll only get down to the real business inside the final 50 kilometers. Enjoy yourselves.
Well, as you've just heard, we'll get down to the business in the final 50. I was tempted to get a name up there with Dennis or somebody because obviously being up there last time really paid off, but I don't think that's going to happen too often. But some real breakaways going on here. I don't think anybody really upsets the general classification up there. No, absolutely not. No, absolutely nobody up there that upset the general classification. I don't think anybody's really up there in any of the other classifications. There's a few up there in the points classifications, particularly Galopin, who might well pick himself up some points today. But this is really a stage which, as said before, will be fought at the end. As you can see, Gegenhardt, unfortunately, is out now because he fell out of the time limit on stage number 5, which is a real pity to see. But any objectives? I think we might, well, do we go with Dennis? See, that points classification is something we really want to target. I think we'll wait a little bit. We'll get over the first hill first, and then we'll judge what we want to do. But we'll take this slow, much like we did in the last stage, and just try and figure out our strategy as we go. But obviously react to anything that happens. So about 15 kilometres in now, that breakaway is full of 13 riders. As you can see, nobody really touches that general classification. Nobody really in that points classification either, so nobody we're really bothered about. Van Avermaet, who is the leader, they're talking about him now. Apparently he's someone who is good in the one-day stages. I don't really get what a one-day stage would be. Surely that every stage is a day, but anyway. So all of our guys are well placed, as you can see. The group here, all 7 of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I presume Casio Vieja is right behind him, absolutely. But the peloton's riding quite hard. Only a gap of 111 seconds, 1 minute 51 in old money. Well, or new money. In whatever money it is. I quite like to use the seconds rather than minute and seconds. Just wants to sound fancy, really. But obviously the peloton is pretty full at the moment. Interesting to see a breakaway of 13, because obviously the more riders there are on the breakaway, the higher chance it's got of working. So we'll have to see how that goes. It is quite a way to the intermediate, to the sprint first off, though. I'm trying to remember how we get to see where that sprint is. I've forgotten how long away it is. And I'll try and remember how we get to that control to see how long away that sprint is. In fact, we'll have a quick look now. Options. Rider controls, team com. Just trying to find out. Because I know there's a way you can find. I think it might be display, potentially. We'll have a look. Not sure. Not sure. But the sprint is quite a way away, as we can visibly see. So, we'll wait until we get to the sprint. Obviously, Thomas and Dennis are the 2 most important coming up to that sprint, because they are challenging for the points classification, whether it's intended or not. They're up there, so it seems silly not to. But as you can see, we're all going quite a canter, really, quite a pace, which is very interesting to see. And it's going to be tricky for the breakaway to get a real big gap. Just going to test the water here. We've launched an attack with Casio Vieja and Dennis. 2 guys who aren't really looking for the general classification. Dennis obviously looking for a few points. So we're just going to test the water there and see how that goes. See if anybody follows, anybody's kind of tricked by that. Because I don't think the breakaway is going to make too much difference here. There's one guy who's followed them, Kelderman. Again, not really interested in the general classification. And Costa's also gone as well. So maybe a few of those guys just trying to flirt with our guys, try and get in that breakaway. But why not? We'll try a different strategy. We've got 7 riders, 5 of them are in the peloton, so not really much of a risk. And who knows, we might get a few more points to the classification with Dennis, which would be great. But as you can see, they're back in the peloton now, so the peloton riding hard, to be fair. So not really much of a difference made there, but I mean, there's 19 in the breakaway at the moment, all in different groups. I'm guessing that guy in the 3rd group will probably come back to the peloton. He's just there. Obviously, only the top 15 getting points in the sprint, so it might just not be our day when it comes to sprints, but the climbs what we're really interested in at the end of the stage, and obviously for the general classification as well. We've advanced quite a way. We're not quite at the sprint just yet. It's not far away, though. As you can see, that top group have pulled away quite a bit to us. Apparently, they're not really of any risk to the general classification, and the climb will be the most important thing, as we know later on. So it's just about staying in the peloton. Again, we did potentially fancy having a go at trying to get one of our guys in that breakaway, but it won't happen. So that top 14 and whoever gets first in that 2nd group will get to that sprint first and get some points. But as we've said before, we're not too bothered about that. So not really a massive important stage, though. We've just been told that by the team boss, to be quite honest, that look, you know, it's not one of those stages where we're massively bothered about forming any sort of breakaway. But we'll have to see how we go. We'll have to see how we go. I think the main thing here will be the end of the stage. So just keep it calm, keep it cool until then. But we might try a strategy or two just to see if we can upset the balance of the race, potentially, if there's an opportunity to at some point. So the breakaway coming up to the intermediate sprint now. I thought you'd like to see who goes over the line in that intermediate sprint first. Obviously, only the top 15 take points. So Van Avermaet takes the intermediate sprint. Don't really know why we've gone to the front of the peloton with Geraint Thomas here. Absolutely no idea. But I'll tell you what, we've got a bit of a chance to try a bit of a break. So why not? Let's try it. Don't think it's really going to work. Because the peloton's keeping up with us. But still, the peloton's riding hard. So important to keep the peloton riding hard. About a 3-minute gap as we've come over the intermediate sprint to the front guys. And this intermediate sprint marks 100 kilometres to go. We're only going to be finishing the 20th, but obviously it won't matter. We'll just pull in behind some of these guys. Don't know where our guys are. We seem to go on a bit of a limb there and try and attack. We'll follow this guy here. And the rest of us are in the peloton. And everything's going quite swimmingly at the moment. As you can see, none of those guys challenging any sort of classification. Maybe De Gent for the points classification. But apart from that, the really interesting thing, as we've said before, will come at the end of the stage. A few guys being dropped then. We've come a long way forward to where we were. 58 kilometres to go. Coming up to the start of those climbs. Obviously, in the first few climbs, the breakaway are going to take the points. But the breakaway are starting to struggle. A few guys at the back, Navarro, Colbrelli and Venturini, unfortunately, have just been dropped the stage. Unfortunately, just too much for them. Still on board with Geraint Thomas. That first and probably second climb, those guys will take the lead. But we're really interested in the general classification here. Not really on the climbing stakes in this stage. I mean, in that third and second class, there's maybe, 8 to 9 points available. So, nothing really massive. Of course, the general classification, the most important. And there's a gap of 2 minutes and 24 to the peloton, which is getting a little bit larger. Only a breakaway of 16 riders now. That breakaway was 19 at the start of the race. So, I think the breakaway will definitely be caught by the end of the race. So I thought you'd like to see who leads over this breakaway group over the mountains. 2 points for the man who crosses that line first. 1 point for whoever gets second. The gap to the peloton obviously stable, but because those guys are going to be going for these sprints, it's inevitable that gap will widen. And they've gone into 2 different groups now. That's going to be very interesting to see whether that changes as we get to the top of the climb. But no need to put any extra effort in here. No points available. You can see that group is really dispersed now into 3 different groups. Now 4 different groups, actually. This is going to be interesting to see. I'm not going to follow anybody here because we don't need to be interested in this particularly. Wow, 5 different groups. So, Jingle gets 2 points. De Gent gets 1. That's very interesting to see. But the problem is now, especially for the breakaways, that, pardon the pun, well, it's not really a pun, but pardon the expression, but there's been a breakaway within the breakaway. There's now 4 different groups. Sure, that second and third group are only composed of 1 rider, but none of this helps anybody. You would think with a group of 17 odd in that breakaway, there would have been a real chance to potentially just do something, but alas, it's not happened. But the breakaway has now extended the gap to 3.5 minutes. That's obviously because we're coming up the climb. That will stabilise itself as we come to the top of this climb. But this should be interesting. Use our aerodynamic position. Just try and make up some place in this peloton. Peloton should in theory make some good time up now to the rest of the field because we're now coming downhill. We might as well just use this aerodynamic position. Sure, lose a little bit of time, but no need to start pedalling if we don't need to. But it might just be an uneventful stage. It might just be a case of staying in the peloton because we might not catch to the breakaway. You never know, I suppose. But we're fairly well placed, all of our guys in the peloton. But the breakaway is splitting up. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on towards the end of the race. Well, the breakaway group has lost 1 man. Haas is coming back to the peloton, it seems. So only 15 now in that breakaway. And that will start to drop again, I think, here over this King of the Mountain sprint. 5 points available for the top guy over this sprint. Looks like De Gent might have it covered again. 9 of those guys going for that sprint. Let's have a look who's going to be over it first. De Gent, Matthews, Van Avermaet and Valgren get the points there. But it's going to be interesting. I don't know whether to potentially make an attack. I don't know whether to make an attack just to try and decrease the gap. I mean, sure, these guys aren't going to be important for the general classification, but just to squeeze a little bit of time over our competitors, I don't know. I don't know what the what's going to happen over these next 30 kilometres. Some of the guys might get really tired. We've kept ourselves composed. We've not made any silly changes, to be honest, during this stage. Just kept cool. It might be one of just those non-eventful stages and just stay well placed inside the peloton. I know that we were hoping for a win, but as said before, the guys at the front don't threaten the general classification, so I don't see any problem with the way we're going at the moment. But there's a while to go yet, so we're going to have to skip a little while until the action really starts to begin. Well, this is really interesting to see. The breakaway have absolutely gone. Breakaway will win this stage, but the guys in the overall standings are going to be absolutely fine. De Gent gets himself an 8-second bonus because he gets over that climb first. There's an 8-second bonus, 5-second bonus and 3-second bonus. So Van Avermaet gets 5 seconds. But ultimately this stage can absolutely knacker them. So you would think that really for the general classification they're not really going to be up there massively. But as you can see, just massively dispersed everyone has now. I don't know whether it's just worth potentially trying to make a little bit of an attack with 10 kilometres to go. But I'll be back to you with Teil 10 kilometres to go, just to see how this ends. We're going to try and make a bit of a break for it here. Just see if we can make any sort of time up. We're going to go with Carapaz, Thomas. In fact, no, we're going with Thomas. We'll go with Kwiatkowski, and we'll go with Bernal as well. Just try and make some time up. Just see how we get on. I'm just intrigued. Try and upset the apple cart a little bit. I don't know if this will lead to much, but the peloton seems to be riding at a good pace. The peloton might well just be close to us. We'll follow Bernal. We're getting behind Bernal. As you can see, Kwiatkowski making a move as well here. So we'll just get him behind our teammate if we can. Or maybe not. But there's a few attacks going on here. As you can see, Bernal's coming as well, and Kwiatkowski, right to see. Just line up behind our teammate if we can here. Well, apparently we're following him, but never mind. But it's a little bit of a breakaway from the main peloton. Again, I don't see much harm in trying this. Just to bring the peloton close to the main pack, potentially. It's working, though. The peloton's decreasing the gap. And we'll just try and get him behind our teammates. And we can. That's it. Lovely. Wrong one. There we go. There's Bernal. So let's have a quick look at what's going on. So we've got a 44-second lead. That's not too bad at all. There's only the two of these guys, unfortunately, with each other. But I'm sure they can ensure minimum tempo. Ride to catch the group in front. That would be a good idea. But this is interesting. A few of us in this little break. Roglic, who was the previous yellow jersey holder, in it with the three of our riders, of course, and Ide. We could just make a little bit of time towards the general classification. Consume a bit of our feed. Isn't going to hurt with Garant. And I think we've made a good decision by breaking here. The peloton might well catch us up. Who knows? But this should be an interesting end. Let's just have a look. The peloton is, well, it's been split, to be quite honest, hasn't it? Can we get our guys up to us at all? Yes, Roglic, that's a good idea. Hopefully we can get all of our 5 guys in this little group. Again, the more of us there are in this group, the better it'll be. But the peloton decreasing the gap.
Watch out for him for the overall. You've got to chase him down.
Well, Carapaz is coming with Chris Froome to try and catch. As you can see, 6 minutes 16 to the leaders. So I think this is working. There's a few more guys we're going to pick up along the way. Hopefully they'll join this group. And Roglic's trying to attack. We'll try and attack with him. We'll get Bernal to attack. Don't want to get Kwiatkowski to attack. We'll just tell him to work with his opponents. And in here, try and catch and try and go for the general classification. But we're just trying to push now with Geraint Thomas. This might not well work. It might be a disaster. But we need to keep up with Roglic. So Bernal catching up. That's great to see. We've made up some more time. Dropping a few of our guys, unfortunately, now. But Carapaz and Froome in the general classification. Kwiatkowski hopefully will drop back for that. But as you can see, there's 5 kilometres until the finish now. So these are the 2 riders we're going to focus on the most. Hopefully, we will... Yellow jersey's attacking, is he? Well, I can't see him. We'll just follow Bernal, and I think this should be a decent end to the stage. Okay, we're not going to win it, but we're going to certainly decrease the gap. Just consume some more of our blue feed. But this is good from us here. Just see how the guys are getting on behind. Kwiatkowski's been dropped a little bit. Where's the peloton? I don't think there is a peloton that much. It's been spaced out that much. 6:48 the peloton. So this group, including Carapaz and Froome, just try and set a high tempo in there. Kwiatkowski, yeah, continue the effort. No problem with that. In fact, we'll get him to wait for the following group. It's only 8 seconds to that group. But this push with Geraint and Bernal seems to be working fairly well, so I'm really pleased about that. So 3 kilometres to go for us here in this group. Be good to set a high tempo. Try and get along the line in the quickest amount possible. But Geraint's going to win this at quite a canter in this stage. Remember, there is a climb, of course, at the end of this, which will incur some points. Geraint has won the 6th stage. We'll have to look at how that makes a difference to the general classification. Our aim was to win the stage today, but it's not quite happened for us. We'll just try and keep tabs with Bernal. Don't want him to go away. So 2 kilometres to go for this group. We've done fairly well, I think, here. Just consume the last bit of our feed. These guys are going. So 1 kilometre to go here. 1 kilometre to go. We'll tell Bernal to go for it, as we do as well. Oh, there's a collective fall. I think that's inside the peloton. I think Bernal should be following us here. But we should finish 6th in the stage. We'll tell, hang on. Just tell Bernal to ride hard until the end. And with Geraint Thomas, we do pretty well, and we're across the line in stage number 6. Bernal did lose a little bit of pace at the end, but should be just about okay. Bernal coming across the line in 9th. Just keep an eye on the rest of our guys. Gegenhardt apparently is in the stage. Well, that's interesting. Right, come on, Kwiatkowski.
He's got his teammates riding because in front there's a rider who's dangerous to him in the overall standing.
Oh, man, we should have consumed our feed. Oh, well. It's fine. We're across the line in decent amount of time. Carapaz is there, Froome and Kwiatkowski, so we're all happy with that. And we'll just try and get Dennis over the line. We don't want to lose somebody else now, do we? Might as well consume our feed here. Try and make up the maximum time possible at the end. Every second counts. But I'm pleased Geraint Thomas finished 4 minutes and 55 behind the main guys. That's a really good effort. Really pleased for him. Dennis, though, 73rd place. Catching up to this group here. So we might as well try and catch it. Again, every second counts. Come on, Dennis. These guys not really bothered. Well, we are. So we're going to go for it. Come on. Losing our pink energy pretty quick. We're probably going to blow up before the top, but it's okay. And good effort by Dennis there. So let's have a look at how that stage will finish off. But all of our guys over the line. Why is it saying Gegenhardt? I've completely forgot the one rider that... Castro Viejo, where's he? Please don't tell me he fell. We'll have to find out. It might be a glitch saying that Gegenhardt's there, but he's definitely out of the classification. So not a bad stage at all, really, there. We were aiming for the win, obviously, but Hey, it doesn't happen sometimes. The breakaway got it right, but they're no trouble for the general classification, so there was only 5 or 6 of them at the end. I think Geraint Thomas finished 6th, I'm sure. So he did well in the end. But De Gent, fair play to him, way ahead of anybody else. He takes stage number 6 in the Tour de France. Next up, for the Astana team, this is the points classification, I believe, coming up next. See, we're learning. Oh, sorry, the general classification, of course. Fuglsang keeps that general classification. He was with us, though, so that's encouraging to see. We're keeping up with the guy at the top. Points classifications, that's next to Van Aert. I think that's changed hands again. We'll have to see how it goes and what the points look like. Of course, we didn't really take many points today. Took a few points in that final climb. De Gent gets the best climber classification, so he's won the stage and gets that best climber. Fair play to him. Was it? No, I don't think it was De Gent who won the stage, was it actually? Pogacar, young rider classification, and that is it for the podium at the end. So let's have a look at the results. Let's have a look what our team boss has got to say first.
This result is clearly not up to my expectations. It isn't catastrophic, but when you've got victory in mind, it's obviously a disappointment.
I think that's a little bit harsh. I really do think that's a bit harsh. Because at the end of the day, you know, we weren't too bad in the end. Sure, we could have maybe prioritised Bernal. Maybe he ran out of feed and maybe blew up before the end. But still, finishing in 11th place isn't bad at all. The 5 riders above Geraint Thomas, we weren't worried about for the general classification. Who's the leader of the general classification? Fuglsang. So, you know, Bernal and Thomas finished ahead of him. What more can you ask? Carapaz, Kwiatkowski and Chris Froome, all competitive, but Dennis and Castro-Viejo, unfortunately, fell back a little bit. Best climber, obviously no points there. Points classification for that final sprint. Geraint Thomas managed to bag himself 10 points. 5 points for Bernal. Young rider, Bernal was the leader in that race. Oh, dear me, pardon me. Getting the burps, I'm all excited. Team classification, we won that as well. And compatibility, De Gent obviously gets that for today. So general classification then, Geraint Thomas, that's huge. Wow. Great stuff, really brilliant to see. Geraint Thomas moves up to number 4, gains a lot of time. He was more than 2 minutes behind, remember, after the last stage. Fuglsang has kept that lead at the top of the standings. Roglic has got past Pinot for second in the standings. And Geraint Thomas gets past Buchmann and Quintana for number 4 in the standings. Carapaz stays in 12th. And Bernal moves up 1 position to 14th. Obviously, De Gent moves up massively to number 18. Kwiatkowski in 17. Chris Froome moves up 3 places. Dennis moves down quite a lot because obviously he won the last stage. And Castro-Viejo is in 71st. But our big 3 are still doing pretty well. Carapaz, Bernal and Geraint Thomas. Let's have a look how we're doing in the other standings. Kwiatkowski stays where it is in the best climber. Carapaz with 12th now. Points classification. Dennis moves down 1 place, so does Geraint Thomas. But remember, Geraint Thomas did pick up some points there. So we're still competitive with those 2 in that classification. Young riders. Bernal moves up 1 place past Gaudu into 3rd place. And team classification, we lead that. Compatibility. Hermans goes up to the top in that. Dennis moves down slightly. Not really anything we're targeting there. But this isn't going too bad at the moment. Tomorrow's episode will mark the 3rd stage, as in 33% there, or a 3rd, not the 3rd stage, a 3rd towards the end. And it's going pretty well for us. Bernal maybe is out of it because it's going to take a lot to get to the likes of Fuglsang and Roglic. It was that 2nd stage really that's lost us all that time. But Geraint Thomas is still competitive. And big stage for Jingle there. He moves up to 15th in the standings. But tomorrow we move on to stage number 7. Not too bad at all really. No team bonus, but we all recover fairly well. Castro-Viejo starting to worry me a little bit, but Bernal, Thomas, Carapaz, Froome, Kwiatkowski doing fairly well, our main 5, but Dennis and Castro-Viejo worrying me a little bit. But the 7th stage coming tomorrow, so let's have a look at what our team boss has got to say about our objectives for this one.
The main thing to grasp today is that the route is flat and it harbours no particular difficulties. A sprint finish is more than likely. This stage is of no interest to us. Keep cozy inside the peloton. Have a good stage.
So another flat stage before we get to stages 8 and 9, which seems to be really tough. But then we've got our rest day, and we carry on for a few more flat stages. Obviously, we'll be coming in the next couple of weeks, but stage number 7 is the one up next. That should be really exciting. Again, a flat stage, but a little bit to fight for. We've got a few climbs, 2 sprints. Again, Grant Thomas, Dennis, potentially we can fight for those with those 2, and also keep cozy inside the peloton. We're going to have to change our priorities. We did a little while ago, to be honest. The mission is to win the general classification with Bernal, but ultimately, with Grant Thomas being well placed in 4th, he's got to be the man we target the general classification with this time. But if you enjoyed that, make sure to leave a like down below, comment your thoughts as well, and subscribe for daily Tour de France content at 1 PM until stage 21, until we go to the Champs-Élysées. I'm really enjoying this series at the moment, and I hope you guys are as well, really enjoying keeping up to date with this. But until the next time, thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye for now.